Would you believe me if I told you that, when it comes to Professor Gadd, not everything is as it seems? Jovial, kind-hearted, a passion for science, and a little quirky, Gadd has made quite a name for himself in the Mushroom Kingdom as one of Luigi's biggest supporters, and the foremost expert on all things paranormal. But just beneath the surface lies something much more sinister. I've been investigating the man, and in this video What was that? Gads! Well, although I've had some recent setbacks in my pursuit to uncover the truth about Gadd, I will not quit. Real journalism doesn't back down when things get tough. To understand Professor Gadd, we need to go back at least 50 years to where it all started. The foothills of Thwomp Volcano. You see, a young man in his early 20s had just started his scientific career studying the unique geology of the island and the thick thwomps themselves. He wanted to understand them and their history. That man was one Elvin Gadd. The footage you're currently seeing has all been recovered by a very diligent archivist named T-Rex TechMech, and in it we can see a young Gadd in his lab fully zoned in to his work, so much so that he doesn't even notice the two Marios and two Luigis right in front of him. Why and how this came to be is important, but we'll have to come back to that. What's important to understand right now is that Thwomp Volcano erupted, and Gadd's first lab, his geology lab, was completely destroyed. Luckily for him, and perhaps as we'll see, deeply unlucky for everyone else, the Marios and Luigis saved him. After his rescue, Gadd says this: "I hear there's an affordable lab at the edge of the Boo Woods. I think I'll relocate there for a time. I have a hankering to do some paranormal research." And so, move to the Boo Woods he did. Now, I can't pinpoint exactly how long he spent in those woods, but by my best estimations, it had to be at least 40 to 50 years. And most of that time would have been in secluded, solitary solitude. Now, I can't speak for you, or in truth, even for Gadd, but I can say that a half century alone in some haunted woods would certainly have an effect on me. Gadd spent his time not just studying ghosts, but also capturing them too. He invented a device, the ghost portrificationizer, which could trap ghosts into a portrait. Over the decades, Gadd accumulated quite a collection of these paranormal pictures and would go on to call them his greatest possession. Day in and day out, Professor Gadd would track, trick, and trap ghosts for his ever-growing collection, until one day a mysterious mansion appeared out of thin air, and subsequently all of his gallery ghosts would break free from their penal picture prisons. Undoubtedly a low moment for Gadd, but shortly thereafter he saw something that must have made him do a double take. A strange man in red wandered into the mansion. Unfortunately, the man disappeared without a trace before Gadd could contact him, but then another stranger, this time in green, showed up and ventured into the emergent mansion. Try to imagine what it must have been like to go from that deep sense of solitude, even loneliness, to the sheer exhilaration of new companionship. We don't need to imagine, however, as footage recovered by another exceptional archivist named Retro Archive shows us exactly what happened. Gadd rushed inside the dangerous mansion after the man in green, and lucky for that man, managed to prevent the ghost from capturing him. Gadd must have been so utterly overjoyed by the chance at community. He immediately set himself to helping this man, who we now know as Luigi, with whatever he needed. Luigi had been lured here by a false lottery saying that he had won a mansion, and his brother in red, Mario, had gone in first. Unfortunately, Mario had been captured by the mansion's insidious ethereal inhabitants, so Gadd sprang into action and equipped Luigi freely with all of his ghost hunting gear, as well as training him on how to use it. He also provided intel on all things paranormal, from bigger abstract truths about ghosts to precise individual data on specific specters, like information about how the mansion itself wasn't real, but that the gold and treasures inside were. You see, apparently ghosts have a penchant for hoarding wealth, or intel on each individual portrait ghost whom Gadd had spent years tracking and had previously captured. Gadd did all of this without being asked. He offered his service to this humble plumber freely. After all, this Luigi character was such a kind-hearted soul soul who was in dire need. Who could possibly say no to that? I have no doubt that at this point in time, Professor Elvin Gadd did genuinely care for not just Luigi, but for everyone. I believe what drove him was a feeling of compassion, but as we'll see going forward, that won't always be the case. The entire impetus for the mystifying mansion's sudden appearance, as well as Gadd's ghostly gallery's escape, was the one and only calamitously cruel King Boo. Gadd and Luigi worked tirelessly all night to battle the brutal boos that beset upon the brazenly bogus building, and in doing so, they together managed to accrue clues about and confidence in their conceptions of the incorporeal, as well as copious amounts of cold, hard cash. In other words, throughout this night, Luigi had not only recaptured all of Gadd's ghosts and furthered Gadd's research, but he had also obtained untold millions in precious stones, pure gold bullion, and legal tender. The mansion, which had appeared out of nowhere, may have been a mere phantasm, but the treasure, the gold, gemstones, pearls, and money were all very real. By the end of the night, Luigi had rescued his brother Mario, recovered all of the portrait ghosts, and captured the infamous King Boo as well. Gadd was overjoyed, and by the end of the first paranormal adventure, Gadd had everything he thought he wanted: knowledge, understanding, and community. His work on the paranormal was undoubtedly advanced by years thanks to Luigi's tireless efforts, and his entire precious possessed portrait portfolio was fully returned to him, as well as many other non-portrait ghosts that Luigi managed to capture along the way. In fact, many dozens of ghosts were now directly under the dominion of Gadd. So what happened to all those valuables? Was it evenly split up between the men involved, or donated to some mutually agreed upon project? No, Gadd gave it all to Luigi. Gadd helped Luigi use the funds to build a whole new mansion just for Luigi. He even clear-cut the Boo Woods, his home for the past 50 years, to do it. All in service to this humble plumber who had nothing except his brotherly love. At least, that's what Gadd must have thought. Now, I know it seems impossible not to know of the Mario Brothers and their countless heroic exploits. I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock for like 30 years to not know the world's greatest heroes. Or living alone in some haunted woods for 50. Sometime later, after leaving what was once the Boo Woods and venturing back into the world, he must have been utterly shocked to see Mario and Luigi's faces plastered everywhere. Statues of them erected in almost every city in town, billboards showing off their many side ventures like their kart racing company or their extravagant parties, and of course the countless news stories about their legendary quests to save the kingdom. Literal photos of them side by side with Princess Peach, the highest royal in the land, and cheerful rumors about Mario and Peach's are-they, aren't-they relationship. Even Luigi himself is seen in some rather risque photographs with the neighboring Princess Daisy. They weren't humble plumbers at all. They were nobility. They were elites. They had everything in the world at their fingertips, and Luigi gladly took the money and the sacrifice of the Boo Woods, Gadd's home, without questioning it. I think this turned something deep in Elvin's heart. I think this made him feel a deep bitterness, a resolute resentment more robust than anything he had ever felt before. This would have been the biggest betrayal of his whole life, and I think in that time, when he learned the truth of the Mario Brothers, of Luigi, he hardened his heart and set himself to vengeance and to power. Now, I need to lay out some groundwork to show why I firmly believe this to be true. One night, when Luigi was snugly cozied up in his own home watching some TV, Gadd kidnapped him using a type of teleportation device that Gadd invented. Thanks to the footage recovered by Retro Archive, we've learned that Gadd had moved to Evershade Valley, an area that is very much haunted. The reason he claims he moved to the valley is because he discovered the Dark Moon, but more on that later. However, we know he had to move. He had already clear-cut the whole Boo Woods. There was nothing left for him there. Gadd had set up a rather efficient workflow in the Evershade Valley by employing the labor of ghosts. You see, the Dark Moon had a pacification effect on almost all specters. But unfortunately for him, something happened, and the Dark Moon was shattered, causing his ghostly labor force to revolt. This is why he kidnapped Luigi, because Luigi is the best ghost hunter he knows. The only ghost hunter he knows. In this recovered footage, we can clearly see a tonal shift in Gadd's personality. Not just the callous way he mocks Luigi and laughs at his very legitimate fears, but also his focus on his own accomplishments more so than the actual safety of the people involved. We can see that instead of helping Luigi freely, he is now using emotionally manipulative tactics like shame and guilt and sometimes praise to get Luigi to comply with his wishes. And as unfortunate as it is, Luigi is just not equipped to say no. After all, Gadd did help him out the first time they met. He also charges money for upgrades to the ghost hunting gear that he supplied instead of giving it to Luigi for free, despite the fact that he kidnapped Luigi and brought him into this against his will. This is a pattern we will see develop more in the future. We also see that Gadd no longer seems to care for the safety of others at all, as he in numerous occasions reflects on how much trouble the toads are causing him, and seems to really only care about his own research, not the lives of his toad assistants. I'd like to take a moment to circle back to the crux of this particularly ghastly situation, the Dark Moon. Gadd claims that he heard about it, that he came to Evershade Valley because he had to learn about the Dark Moon. But what if he didn't hear about it? What if he created it? I can't say that I know this for certain, as I don't have any direct evidence that proves this, but I'd like to lay out my argument and let you be the judge. Gadd claims he came to the valley to study the Dark Moon, but he wasn't studying it at all. He was using it. As we know, the Dark Moon has a pacifying effect on the spectral spooks of the valley, and it seems not limited to pacifying aggression, but also to pacifying dissent entirely. We see in our footage, and as Gadd himself admits, he had hordes of ghostly workers at Evershade Valley. But what exactly were they working on? And I have to mention that Gadd already had a cleansing device at the ready to restore power to the Dark Moon. He claims he whipped it up after the moon broke, but what if he had it before? I think that Gadd used his advanced knowledge of ghosts and the paranormal, much of that knowledge he obtained thanks to the efforts of Luigi in that first encounter, to construct a pacification field. And that field's emitter was the Dark Moon. The newly pacified ghosts became unable to put up any resistance and were put into Gadd's poltergeist proletariat, his poltertariat if you will. This could also explain their violent revolt the moment the Dark Moon was broken. Ghosts are dangerous for sure, but they're mostly just mischievous. But not this time. This time they went on a raucous rampage ransacking inside the refitted room Gadd had set up for his research. But if Gadd did make the Dark Moon, then to what end, you ask? To answer that will require a little more context. So for now, let's go back to the start of this most recent debacle. You might be wondering how the Dark Moon broke in the first place. After all, its pacification field should have prevented any aggressive ghosts from trying to attack it. Well, to cut to the chase, it was King Boo. But wait a minute, didn't King Boo get trapped in a portrait thanks to Luigi's heroic efforts and Gadd's portrificationizer machine? Yes, but as Gadd himself admits, he sold King Boo's portrait at a garage sale. This seems utterly unbelievable. Not only was Gadd's ghost portrait collection his most prized possession, but also he, better than anyone, would know the dangers of letting go of the King Boo portrait, but yet he sold it. So why? I think the questions of why he sold King Boo's portrait and why he started using forced ghost labor in Evershade Valley can be answered, but to do that, we need to take a little detour, a trip if you will, to the sun-drenched tropical paradise of Isle Delfino.
Welcome to the sun-drenched tropical paradise of Isle Delfino. We're so pleased to welcome you to our beautiful home. Come enjoy a natural wonderland to which we've added the world's finest resort facilities, a spectacular amusement park, and succulent seafood. All this and more await you on Isle Delfino. Come relax and let us refresh your body and spirit.
Isle Delfino is a small island nation outside of the Mushroom Kingdom. It's known for its gorgeous sunny beaches, freshly grown fruit, and beautiful walkable cities and resorts. A popular vacation spot for the well-to-do of wealthier nations. Thanks to the tireless efforts of the aforementioned journalist named Retro Archive, we have very extensive records of the crime spree that spread all across Isle Delfino, which caused untold economic, social, and emotional damage to the native peoples of the island, the Piantas. Parsing all the records we have available tell a very interesting story. Court records at the time implicate Mario as a criminal serial graffiti artist and, frankly, a terrorist. He was arrested and convicted of these charges shortly after landing on the island. The damage and devastation Isle Delfino was subjected to can't really be overstated. Hundreds of casualties as well as untold millions in economic damages, all at the hands of this shadowy Mario figure. But that's just it. As this uncovered footage reveals, it wasn't Mario at all. It was an imposter with a magic brush. A magic brush that had the power to create monsters, destroy entire buildings, and ruin whole landscapes. When Mario's group first landed on the Isle Delfino runway, the imposter had already caused havoc all around the island. But rather conveniently, the key to saving the day was already waiting on the runway. A sentient device made by Gadd Science Incorporated, Flood, the Flash Liquidizer Ultra Dowsing device.
Flash Flash Liquidizer Ultra Dousing Device
was the perfect tool to combat this insidious magic graffiti. As soon as Mario comes into contact with Flood, they begin to analyze and search through their database to register their new user. They quickly recognize Mario. Make note of this, as it proves that not only did Gadd clearly learn about Mario, but did deep research spanning decades of history to put together a comprehensive profile of him. Mario and Flood managed to clean up the island, saving it from certain collapse, but Mario's name is never cleared. As far as the Piantan legal system is concerned, Mario both created and solved the problem. But the Piantas are an easygoing and forgiving people, so they celebrate their newly washed island and allow Mario to continue his vacation. But the records remain. Mario is still a convicted criminal in their legal system, even if he made amends. And Flood? Well, unfortunately, Flood was mortally wounded in the final battle to save the island.
Mario, was I, assist,
In saving the island, Mario learned the truth behind his imposter, a young and naive Bowser Jr. equipped with a magic brush. But where did he get that brush in the first place? And how does all this fit into my case against Gadd? As we see from Bowser Jr. himself, a strange old man in a white coat gave him the brush. Now, maybe Bowser Jr. is lying, right? Well, I don't believe so. You see, Bowser Jr. is a young and impressionable kid who takes after his dad, and as such, he prides himself on his evil doings. If he had stolen the brush from Gadd, then he would have proudly declared that he took it off some helpless old man. Okay, maybe, but how do we know for certain that it's Gadd that gave it to him? Well, I have 2 points of evidence for this. The first is that Flood recognized the description given by Bowser Jr., the description of their own creator. The second is the logo we can see embedded into the brush itself, Gadd Science Incorporated.
Gadd Science Incorporated.
We've gone over a lot, so I'd like to lay out everything that we've covered so far. At least 50 years ago, Professor Elvin Gadd moved into the Boo Woods to study the paranormal. Many decades later, he met Luigi and helped him rescue his brother Mario. During these events, Luigi had gathered a tremendous amount of gold and gemstones, as well as a wealth of scientific data on ghosts. Gadd gave all of the gold to Luigi, thinking that he was merely a humble plumber. Sometime later, Gadd learned of the legend of the Mario Bros, and their deep connections with the royal family of the Mushroom Kingdom. Gadd allowed himself to become bitter. No longer satisfied with his pursuit of paranormal knowledge, he decided that he would never pass up wealth again. Gadd sells his prized ghost portrait collection, including the deadly dangerous King Boo portrait, for startup money, and moves to Evershade Valley. There he either discovered, or created himself, the Dark Moon, and used its pacification field to ensnare the free labor of the ghosts in the valley. It's at this time that I believe that he created both the magic brush and its counterpoint, Flood. After creating Flood and the magic brush, he no doubt heavily researched the movements of the royal family, and probably found out about their planned vacation to Isle Delfino. Here he enacted his plan: give the impressionable Bowser Jr. the means to smear Mario's name, and give Mario the means to save the day, even if it cost the life of his creation Flood. This accomplished 2 major goals for Gadd. Firstly, it tarnished the name of the Mario Bros, and secondly, it legitimized his business, Gadd Science Incorporated, as a real player on the world stage. After all, the magic brush was never discovered by anyone other than Mario, but Flood became a household name that every Pianta knew. Sometime after these events, the Dark Moon was destroyed and the ghost laborers revolted. Never to let a good crisis go to waste, Gadd abducted Luigi and enlisted him in a mission to fix the Dark Moon and to further enrich Gadd. After being manipulated to risk life and limb to put the Dark Moon back together, Luigi returns home to snuggle back in bed, none the wiser nor none the richer, unlike Gadd, who was both more informed and more wealthy by the end of these events. Not to mention his ghostly labor force was now back under his command. So that's the timeline we've covered so far, but our story unfortunately doesn't end here. Sometime later, Luigi and crew get invited to a huge, haughty hotel, and why not? They are elites after all, and Princess Peach is actual royalty. They get a lot of gift offers all the time. Well, lo and behold, it was a trap. Again, but this time Gadd was also caught up in it. As it turns out, King Boo had escaped again and had orchestrated this whole ordeal to unify the ghosts against Luigi and Gadd. But Gadd came prepared for some reason and had not only a new and improved ghost-catching vacuum with him, but a whole portable lab too. And continuing the pattern from earlier, instead of helping Luigi freely, he charged him money for it. In fact, at this point he had become almost entirely money-focused, so much so that he barely even tried to pretend otherwise. Even going going so far as to lament at how annoying the Toads nearly getting themselves killed trying to save his invention was. And once again, as Luigi braves the ghosts and ghouls, he amassed a tremendous amount of treasure. Gold coins, gold bars, pearls, and gemstones of all varieties. Now's as good a time as any to try and give a rough calculation of the amount of money that Luigi has been reclaiming from the ghosts. One gold bar is worth 100,000 G in the Mushroom Kingdom, and Luigi finds dozens, if not hundreds, throughout this adventure and the prior journey through the Evershade Valley. I wouldn't even know how to begin guessing at the value of these unique gemstones that he finds, but it's safe to say that Luigi pulled in easily tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars worth of treasure and cash during his ghostly adventures. Maybe even billions, all of which ends up in the hands of one Professor Gadd. By the conclusion of the hotel situation, everyone is once again freed, but in the process the hotel was destroyed and the ghosts are all very angry. In comes Gadd with a brilliant idea. Rebuild the hotel in his image. I'm not kidding. Gadd enlists the help of Luigi and his friends and all the ghosts that had been captured to rebuild the hotel. He designs it himself and brands it with his company logo. So what does all this mean? Well, it means that Gadd has won. He's more or less gotten everything he could hope for. He has a multi-million-dollar hotel fully staffed by free ghost labor. He has an international business empire that can now be funded by and supported by the hotel. He still has his R&D labs in the Evershade Valley, also fully operated by free ghost labor. He has untold millions in gold and treasure assets, and he has the trust and loyalty of the crown of the Mushroom Kingdom. He did help save her life after all. He has everything. As I hope I have demonstrated, Gadd has become one of the most dangerous men in the whole world. He has absolutely no empathy or compassion for anyone, and will exploit and risk the lives of not just individuals, but also entire nations if it suits his purposes. He is one of the most intelligent men that has ever lived, and only puts his intellectual efforts towards empowering himself. He is a vile billionaire who has become so corrupted of spirit that all he craves is power. And the worst part of it, the part that should make you shudder, is that it's not over. As I mentioned in the first part of this expose, back decades ago when we first saw any record of young Elvin Gadd, there were 2 Marios and 2 Luigis in his lab. That's because sometime in the future, Gadd will invent a time machine. You heard me right. Sometime in the not-so-distant future, the malevolent Gadd will become the inventor of a time machine. He will become like a greedy god and gobble up the great green globe. And I really don't know if there will be anything we can do to stop him. But that's a different timeline, and he won't invent the time machine, I hear you say. But unfortunately, it's already written in the stars. You see, the very reason Gadd moved to the Boo Woods in the first place is because his lab was destroyed by a volcanic eruption. An eruption that he should have died in, but Mario's and Luigi's from the future saved him. Mario's and Luigi's which went back in time due to Gadd creating a time machine, thus creating a bootstrap paradox. And as we all know, a bootstrap paradox will always resolve itself in a manner that keeps the time loop going. So I hate to say it, but, well, the richest, smartest, most heartless, most evil villain that we have ever seen will attain a power no one should ever have. I don't know what to do about any of this. All I can do is bring to light what I've found. It's up to you to carry it forward, and maybe, just maybe, if we start to prepare now, then we can stop him somehow. I'll be putting all of my efforts into organizing a resistance, and I encourage you all to—
What was that?